Welcome to the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast, your main resource for 2QB fantasy insights, smart bets, and winning props. Hosted by Fab, Knack, and Rod.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. Just like the intro said, I'm Fab, we got Knack, we got Raj, we got a full house as usual, and we are ready to roll. We got another jam-packed episode of a little bit of a free agency recap going on, part dos microfonos, as we like to say. So since the last podcast, Lucas does. You know what else Lucas does do? Just forgot to mention that. He listens to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. He watches our shorts on Instagram Reels, on TikTok. He watches the entire videos on YouTube, and you can find us all at the Bush League Huddle Podcast. So please, ladies and gentlemen, like, follow, subscribe, share to all your friends. We don't discriminate. We want all genders. We want all races. We want you guys to continue to lock in and listen to all the stuff that we got to tell you, because we're gonna be rocking and rolling through the free agency, through the draft that's coming up right now. We got the draft in April, fun stuff. Then we got training camps. The NFL season never dies. It never ends. There's no such thing as an off season. We don't have an off season either. I haven't slept in 4 days. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. We're gonna get rocking and rolling right now. We got part 2 of free agency recap to get going. I gotta catch breath. Sorry about that. That was a long intro. Sorry.
Why haven't you slept in 4 days?
I've been playing a lot of PS5, if I'm being honest. Gran Turismo.
Better than what I was thinking based off that fire intro.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Came off right off the cuff. Right off the cuff.
Wow.
I am
He's ready to be friends with Demidov, this guy.
Hey, I did go skiing last week, but actual skiing. Moving on. So since our last episode last week, we got some major news, actually. This is actually massive. Jamar Chase signed a 4-year extension worth $161 million. He is now the highest paid non-quarterback player, along with his wide receiver roommate, T. Higgins, who signed a 4-year, $115 million extension, who's also now the highest paid wide receiver, too. I know in a press conference that they had, it was... Yes, exactly. Thank you, Knack. You beat me to there in a press conference. I think it was today, the press conference, where they
yesterday.
Yesterday. Yeah, and where they don't see themselves as 1 or 2, which I kind of like from a camaraderie standpoint. But now the Bengals, with their top 3 players, have a combined $94 million cap hit when you combine Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase's cap hit for 2025. Knack, you eloquently put it as about 33.4% of the 2025 cap. So, Knack, what do you make of this? Is this a good strategy to build a team? Because obviously these are 3 of the most highly coveted offensive weapons in the NFL. But spending that much money on just 3 of them. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Look, I feel like obviously Jamar Chase had to be done. That one was a no-brainer. Top 3 wide receiver in the league, hands down. Can maybe even make the argument that he is the best wide receiver in the league at the moment. So that one for me was a no-brainer. Could have been much cheaper if they did it last year, but they decided to wait. The T. Higgins one kind of surprised me. I really thought that he either played on the franchise tag and then left next year, but they decided to go all in. As you alluded to, it's 33% of the cap. That number is just going to go up as the years continue, and they're still short on defense. So I think I would have preferred giving that T. Higgins money to Hendrickson, perhaps, because I don't know how they're going to finagle getting him signed. So it's funny, you see a lot of memes. They're going to have to win games like 97, 94 this year. The defense was horrible. They haven't done anything or much of anything to help that for 2025. So, hey, in a fantasy standpoint, you definitely want to own this offense. You want a piece of this offense somewhere because it's going to be electrifying. They're going to score tons of points. And just one more thing on T. Higgins. He's missed a lot of time with injuries, right? So another signing where they're kind of rolling the dice. 4 more years is, I don't know how it's going to turn out. Fantasy perspective, I love it, but real life, I think I would have done without Higgins and probably paid Hendrickson. But again, Burrow wanted his guys, so what Burrow wants, Burrow gets. So I think it came down to that.
I agree with you on a fantasy perspective standpoint. I think you do want to own any one of these guys because they're most likely going to be playing from behind. I don't think they're going to have too many leads, which was the defense that they have. I think they're taking a page out of the Philadelphia Eagles book, and Joe Burrow said so as much, right? I mean, you kind of want to make your quarterback happy, you want to bring the band back together, and all that stuff. The injury concerns for T. Higgins are there. I don't disagree, but also the caps are going to continue to go up, and the projected cap numbers for the for the years that are following this one are just going to get higher and higher and higher. So I don't hate it. They're going to have to hit on all of their draft picks going forward indefinitely forever. I off the top of my head, I don't know how good or how bad they've been when it comes to drafting defensive players. I think Trey Hendrickson is a homegrown talent, but beyond that, though, I can't really comment. But like
They haven't hit
it
in the last 2 years.
yeah. So there you go. So
No,
that's the
Hendrickson's from
bigger concern.
Hendrickson's from New Orleans.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, so those are larger concerns for me because their pro scout has to and the rookie scouts really have to knock it out of the park every single season from now on, I think, and that's going to be much more pressure on the front office than anything else. But we're going to wait and see for 2025 because at least it's going to be an offense. It's going to be fun to watch every single week. Another move that I thought was very interesting: Jordan Mason from the Niners was traded to the Vikings for I think a 6th round pick. So now he joins Aaron Jones in that backfield. I signed a 2-year contract, $10.5 million. I don't like this for Aaron Jones. This bothers me a little bit. I think now this is we saw Jordan Mason. He's got some juice. He played really well last year for the Niners in those relief spots uh, for Christian McCaffrey when he was injured. And I guess the Vikings saw that. I love what the Vikings are doing. Just by the by, I think they're doing a fantastic offseason. But I really don't like this for Aaron Jones, who I thought had a bit of a resurgence last year in some spots, and now it's just a backfield I don't want to touch. I don't know if you agree with me, Raj, about that.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Fab. I don't like it for Aaron Jones either. You have to remember he's 30 years old, right? And the Vikings are running a very similar running system than the 49ers, a ton of outside zone. So I saw a stat on Twitter, according to Datorama, on outside zone run schemes in 2024. The Vikings ran the 7th most last year. Yards per carry, Aaron Jones had 4.38. Jordan Mason on outside zone runs was 5.86. And
Wow.
he had a double the missed tackles forced per attempt on outside zones. So like outside zone is when you stretch, like the running back stretches it outside and then hits the hole, which you want a younger, more explosive back. So I agree with you completely. This is a kind of a backfield to avoid, but I could see Jordan Mason creeping up because Jones has injury history, and also he's hitting that 30-year old mark where I don't think he's Derrick Henry. I don't think he's going to be the type that just keeps getting better and better as he ages, right? So I think from a team perspective, though, this is a great move to really have a two-headed monster. From a fantasy perspective, I fully agree, Fab. It's something I would maybe shy away from.
Yeah, and Aaron Jones wasn't exactly a running back that was known to carry the rock 250, 280 times a season either, right? A lot of the benefits that come with Aaron Jones is when he's fresh. So I think having a split backfield does work to their advantage. But I mean, these both these guys are like what are running back threes with upside. I think for 2025, unfortunately, like if Aaron Jones does get injured, Jordan Mason can be interesting, but it's
Well,
wait and see.
well, maybe the devil's advocate. Sorry, Knack, I don't know if you're going to jump in, but the devil's advocate on that is it's very likely, and I'm sure we'll talk about it after, that JJ McCarthy will be the QB. Do they rely more on a more heavy run game?
Hmm.
And we have seen, and Knack, you allude to it all the time. It's very rare you have a single backfield, single running back backfield, right? Like we have seen two running backs eat and still be decent from a fantasy perspective. So that's kind of the devil's advocate aspect of it. I think it'll depend on how much the Vikings rely on JJ McCarthy, though.
Yeah, well, with a rookie quarterback, or technically rookie seasoned quarterback, they're probably going to have to rely a lot on the run. So I don't know. I think wide receiver three is pushing it a little bit too far.
Running back
Um,
three.
yeah, running back three, like RB three. What did I say?
You
Oh,
said
running
wide
back.
Wide
receiver, but it's
receiver. Yeah,
fine. We all
yeah,
make mistakes. It's okay.
yeah. I know. This time it's not you. I think RB3 is a bit harsh. I could see an avenue where Aaron Jones could still finish top 20. I still see an avenue where it could happen. Definitely Mason is going to eat into that, but I know the Vikings do like Jones a lot, so I don't think he's pushed to the side completely. But again, I've been saying it since last year. There's not many backfields out there that have that three down back. Besides the even Derrick Henry's not on the field, three downs, right? Besides maybe Saquon Barkley, who's playing a lot more than their backup did. You need a 1-2 punch, and I think again you said it, Fab. They want running backs to stay healthy, right, for the playoff run. So this is a great way to do it.
Yeah. Speaking of helping your running back stay healthy, so the Niners re-signed Kyle Juszczyk to a 2-year, $8 million contract. I'm very happy about that. I hope he ends his story with the Niners. I was kind of upset that there was that conversation that he might not stick around over there. He was a free agent. They didn't re-sign him. There was some conversation he might not be sticking around. Turns out that that's all that, that's all rumors. And he did resign with the Niners for a 2-year contract on $8 million, which is fantastic. Sticking with the Chargers a little bit, Mekhi Becton, 2-year contract, $20 million. So no longer with the Philadelphia Eagles, the reclamation project clearly has paid benefits, and Mekhi Becton is now going to be starting on a very very nice LA Chargers team. Like you love everything they're doing right now. I'll be honest with you, and I think this gives a push to Najee Harris. It's added protection for Justin Herbert. I don't know. I just see positives all across the board about this. Roger, I think you have something to say.
I just don't like what they did on the outside, like bringing back Mike Williams, and he was so bad with the Jets. He was okay with the Steelers. He connected a little bit, but they need speed. They need outside speed that could catch the ball, which Quentin Johnson still can't do.
True.
And
I
they
know
did
from
they did
experience.
not they did not solve that. Will it happen in the draft? Maybe, but where they're drafting in the 22nd pick, that's like kind of Matthew Golden range. He might be
I was
gone
going to
before
say.
that. I really think they're going to take Colston Loveland because he's from Michigan. But aside from that, I agree with you. I love what they did on the trenches. I love what they did on defense, on the offensive line. They just need some outside speed.
I think you're going to see a redemption year from Harris. I think he's going to catch a lot of balls also out of the backfield. It's
Ooh.
going to go back to rookie season, first couple of years in Pittsburgh where he was catching the ball. He even alluded to it in his press conference where he was saying they didn't utilize me properly. I could have been doing so much more and whatever. And okay, he might not be the fastest running back, but now give him a great offensive line and better QB, obviously, better QB play. I think we're going to see a much better year. Probably his best year in the NFL this year.
Yeah, I was reading some stats about Najee Harris actually even before the podcast. He's seen the highest amount of stacked boxes of all running backs in the last 2 years, including Derrick Henry. Like 40% of his runs are stacked boxes.
Yeah, because
That's a
have you seen the quarterback that's
Thank you
Exactly.
been
very
behind
much.
the team there?
That's a product of the quarterback play, right?
Legit.
So now that's not going to happen anymore in LA with the Chargers. I think he's going to have a very good year. I'm very bullish on Najee Harris. I really am. Plus, he has a backfield to himself. Like they have, and I forget his name. There's another running back that they have that
Money
had a
Vidal.
That's it. Thank you.
Vidal.
I'm sure Gavel's going to take over for a little bit there, but I mean, Najee Harris can push for 280 carries next year, especially he's on a
So
1-year
are we
contract.
back on Najee Harris Island? Are we buying stock again on Najee Harris Island?
I wasn't necessarily not on his island. He just wasn't somebody that I was looking for. The guy has been consistent He's been a model of consistency in the first 4 years in the NFL.
He's set it and forget it. RB2 with RB1 upside next year.
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
I like him more. I find he's if what you're saying is true, I agree. If he reverts back to Pittsburgh Steelers Najee Harris, he's an RB3. And like I just think of
Pittsburgh
Guido
Steelers Najee Harris?
the
It's
last
1,000
2
yards and
years.
6 touchdowns.
But just thinking of like especially Guido had him last year, man, and like
yeah, he was in a bad offense, right? With a bad offensive line.
For sure. Yeah. But he's like,
and
I don't know.
He just said stack boxes. Like those play huge factors, right?
I still think he's a good player. He's a solid player. I still think he's a bit limited in terms of like movement, and he's not gonna. I think he's a better real life running back than he is a fantasy running back. But let's see if, and I mentioned it 1 pod or 2 pods ago where Herbert had his best season when Austin Eckler caught for 100 catches. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm not disagreeing with you guys. I'm just saying like that's the best case scenario. If it's not best case scenario for Najee Harris, I'm like very weary of picking him as like an RB2 personally.
You know what I see this situation as? Last year we spoke about it with Terry McLaurin, how he's consistent, but he's always not popping off all that much. And you saw what happened to him last year with a good quarterback who actually throws the ball properly. These are good players that have never been in high end or very good situations.
Good comp.
And now I think we can say that about Najee Harris too. I'm not saying he's going to be wide receiver, running back 1, or even finish in the top 12. But I think, yeah, we all make mistakes. It's fine. But I think finishing in the top 15 is not crazy. I really don't. I really don't think so. A lot of carries were vacated. The line got better. Offensive weapons got better. Yeah. We'll revisit this when we come up to our rankings, in a few months. Like I said in the intro, where I almost popped a blood vessel, but we're gonna be talking about this again. But we're gonna keep it rolling though. Cooper Kupp, 3-year, $45 million contract with the Seattle Seahawks. Roger, I know you had something to say about this because he's a Washington guy going back to Washington. Is that it?
Yeah, went to Eastern Washington. Then obviously going. So like I thought it'd be a good. The fit is weird with JSN, but like the homecoming I think is cool for him. Stays on the West Coast where obviously he started with the Rams. It's all about health with Cooper Kupp, right? Like I think fit aside, the fact that JSN plays more in the slot, the fact that Cooper Kupp, especially at this stage of his career, is more of a limited player, needs to be in the slot. I think he's still a very good wide receiver when healthy, but you saw a lot of diminished play from him from a speed perspective, and of course staying healthy. That'll be the key. If he can't stay healthy, I don't know what the cap is. I don't know what the guaranteed number is on that, but it's all about health with Cooper Kupp. And let's see what Sam Darnold too, right? Like he's been playing with Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford his entire career. Those are guys who are very accurate, very cerebral players. They get the ball out of their hands very quickly, which the worst parts of Sam Darnold are not that. So when you play with timing, which is what Cooper Kupp does, there could be some growing pains on that front with Sam Darnold.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what you said about JSN playing in the slot, he played 74.3% of his snaps were in the slot last year, and Cooper Kupp played 63% of the time in the slot last year. So I agree with you. I don't like the fit per se as in a football sense, because I just don't see like did Jigba play a lot of X in college, or he played a lot? I feel like he played a lot of slot, right?
His 1,500 or 13 or 1,500 yard season. I was looking at it a few days ago. At X or out wide, he was I think 340 snaps. In the slot, it was like 40 or 50. But I think I not to take over, but I really think he will still transition well because he has the athletic ability to still play out wide. Very similar if you look at his combine stats and build, very similar to Stephon Diggs, like 4.44, 4.5, 40, the broad jump, the height, the bench press, whatever. And Stephon Diggs has played 70% of his snaps out wide. So I really, and a lot of analysts also think that among them, Matt Harmon think that Jason could still play out wide. It's Kupp that I think we all agree is a bit concerning.
Yeah, Cup for sure can't play out wide at the moment, and it's now JSN's going to get the CB1 right on the other side of the field rather than the slot receiver, which he saw for again almost 75% of the time last year. So that also concerns me as well as taking that step. I'm not saying he's not talented, very, very good receiver, but now going up against a different type of corner every game, that draws concerns. And again, you brought into another one of my concerns is the timing with Darnold. This is where the growing pains are going to happen. This is where I think Darnold's interception numbers are going to go way up. I think because of that timing issue. So again, I'm not sold on this offense. Some talented players, but I don't know how it's going to work. And I think there's just too much of a mixture. I would have liked more. I would have liked to keep DK Metcalf more than than
Seriously.
than
Yes.
than bring in Cooper Cup, right? I understand you got a second round pick for him, so maybe they do go out and draft a big X receiver with that pick, but I don't know. Right now, I'm not sold, and huge money for, like you said, Raj, for a guy who's very injury prone. He's missed 17 games, sorry, 18 games in the past 3 years. So almost a full season basically in the last three. So
I was also looking up some stats on Cooper Cup. His average rate of separation has been decreasing in the last 4 years as well. So going back to the whole timing issue with Sam Darnold and the fact that their offensive line is the Seattle Seahawks offensive line is considerably worse than the Vikings offensive line. So I think that's going to play into that as well. So yeah, I don't disagree with any of you guys right now. I'm not a huge fan of the signing either. I'm happy for Cup. He got some more of the bag, which is great, but Seahawks offense as a whole, from a fantasy perspective, I'm not running towards it. Another offense I'm not really running towards, especially the backfield. Dallas Cowboys. They made a move, guys. They signed Miles Sanders to a 1-year, $1.3 million contract. I look at their backfield now with Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, and I think of the Spider-Man meme where it's just the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other. Because I was looking them up, and like I mean, obviously Sanders is like 4 years older, and Williams is hopefully rejuvenating his career. I would hope so, at least. But similar build, similar styles, similar running backs, sharing the backfield. I don't know. I feel like we spoke about it last week. Like, I don't know why they got rid of Rico Dowdle, quite frankly, to sign Miles Sanders, and now you're really trading 4 quarters for a dollar. I feel like, but
I feel like they traded 4 quarters for 75 cents there.
yeah, on it, yeah, true. I wouldn't disagree with you on that.
I'm confused. That's the only word I have for this. I don't even want to spend any more breath on it because it's just not worth it. I'm just completely, completely confused.
What I
You
do think,
you went,
though,
they went from not wanting Derrick Henry last year, remember?
yeah,
They said no on Derrick Henry last year, to having a good running back with Rico Dowdle who showed juice, to bringing back Zeke, first of all, which was I still like that was a mistake. Bringing back Zeke, having Rico Dowdle who showed juice, then kicking him out of the building to take an injury prone Javonte Williams who came into the league with such promise and never lived up to the hype, and then even Miles Sanders, who's also been injury prone. I'm confused.
I think this. I'm saying, as I'm thinking this, I'd be surprised if it doesn't happen. I would think that Dallas Cowboys are now out of drafting a running back in the first round, but then again, you can never count out Jerry Jones with his unpredictability. But yeah, I don't know. Roger, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Genty's going past the Bears. Actually, quite frankly, I don't even know if he's going past the Raiders. There's been
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
was looking
smoke
at
with the
A
Raiders as
lot
well.
of
yeah,
mocks have him going
yeah,
to the
A lot
Raiders.
of mocks having
I
with the
think so.
Raiders, and then Omarion Hampton, as much as some scouts or some analysts feel like he's on par with Genty. Are you going to take the second best running back in the draft class at
At
12?
12?
Yeah,
Yeah. No.
yeah.
No.
So I don't know.
No,
We'll
they
see.
need offensive line help in the
And
Dallas
wide
Cowboys,
receiver.
amongst other things. They don't need cornerback help. Sorry, I was referring to the other team in the big state of Texas. Derek Stingley Jr. signed a 3-year, $90 million extension with the Houston Texans, now making him the
Massive.
highest paid quarterback. And they have a very nice secondary, but I think that's about all they have right now. Cooper Rush signed a 2-year, $12.2 million contract with the Baltimore Ravens.
I like
This
this.
isn't. I like this a lot for Baltimore, and I don't think this is very good for Dallas. We were speaking about a little bit right before when the show started. Cooper Rush had a very nice rapport with CeeDee Lamb because in the last few seasons, Cooper Rush actually had to step in for Dak Prescott for injury or otherwise. And, CeeDee Lamb didn't necessarily skip a beat. Like instead of being a high-end wide receiver one, he was a low-end wide receiver one, but at least you're still getting those dividends at the end of every single game. Now, I can't even name you who their backup quarterback is. And Dak Prescott, if he gets injured, like, what does that happen to CeeDee Lamb? And I know this is way too far in advance to even have this sort of speculation, but I don't get this move for Dallas as well. Like, I feel like this was going to be, I feel like having Cooper Rush in your quarterback room was a lot more helpful, was a lot more, like more of a risk-free sort of move to have him. And I love this for Baltimore. This is really weird for Dallas.
If I could interject, it's Will Greer who's the only other quarterback on the roster.
Apologies, Mr. Greer. You can still listen to the podcast and follow us on all social medias.
Any relation to Mike Greer?
Is he black? What's wrong, Fab? They can't be adopted. No, of course
It's
not.
black. It's really easy to understand. Is he black or not?
I actually think he's white.
Okay.
I actually think he's white.
Okay.
But no,
Next
Will
question.
Greer, the Dallas is not related to Mike Greer, the former NHL and current general manager of the Sharks.
He's the GM of the Sharks.
You didn't know Mike Greer's a GM.
How did I miss that?
Yeah.
Wow. Good for him.
Why?
Good for him.
Why? Because affirmative action?
No, because he wasn't necessarily a hockey star. Apart from he had a few years. And what, you want to get into this conversation? Let's get into this conversation. That's okay.
You know what's Fab? I didn't like. We talked about it just before the show. I wasn't thinking of it that way in terms of like from a fantasy perspective. It makes you more weary of drafting CeeDee Lamb, but he's missed 14 games. Dak has in 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's not nothing, man.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah,
and like 2 out of those 3 seasons, he's been very pedestrian.
Yeah, like you're still drafting CeeDee Lamb as a top 3 wide receiver. I was gonna say running back as a top 3 wide receiver. Like that's not gonna change. It's just that, like, it might be the deciding factor if I decide to go CD or Jamar Chase. Not really. I'll probably go Jamar Chase, but you know what I mean, right? Like it could be a deciding factor if you're looking at who the backup QB is. My goodness, why would you get rid of Cooper Rush? He was so serviceable. Anyways, speaking of backup quarterbacks, Mac Jones signed with the 49ers. I don't have any details on the contract, but then again, it's Mac Jones. Cam Robinson, the offensive lineman, signed with Houston on a 1-year, $14.5 million deal. So I guess this is to cover the left tackle hole that was left by the Houston Texans trading Laramie Tunsil. And speaking of Houston as well, they also re-signed their big edge rusher, Danielle Hunter, for a 1-year, $35.6 million. So he's actually making just a hair below Myles Garrett and just a bit above.
I'm so confused about that one. Sorry. Like I thought didn't he sign there last year?
It was a 1-year deal, I think.
Oh, it was another 1-year deal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wasn't sure. I thought it was long term. Okay, my bad.
All this news came out like very, very, very recently. So you guys are getting this straight off of the presses. As we get this information, we send it right to you. We don't waste any time here. Speaking of brand new information that just came right on our doorstep, is the Pats, the New England Patriots, are hosting Mr. Stephon Diggs, which finally they're hosting a wide receiver that's available and that has not yet been signed. And I don't understand why it took them so long to look at Stephon Diggs. They still have a ton of cap space, and Drake May is throwing to a scarecrow and some backup wide receivers that no one's ever heard of. So this should work out. Like if I'm the Pats, I'm not letting Stephon Diggs leave the facilities without a signed contract.
He's not a one, man, and he just came off
for them.
Another ACL. Old.
For them,
he's on the plus side of 30.
I don't disagree, but from what's available right now, he is. I think you can almost say he's far and away the best. Like, would you rather have him? If you're the Pats right now, would you rather have Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Lockett, or just like take swings during the draft again, like they've been doing? Because clearly they've been very good at drafting wide receivers.
I'd probably go Keenan Allen, to be honest with you, if I had to bring in a vet that maybe is better towards maybe mentoring some young wide receivers, but they definitely have to draft one high, right? Like they have to get, and they have to hit on the draft. I don't know. I don't think I like the fit personally. He's been that guy in the locker room sometimes that causes rifts, and I don't know. Older, just came off an ACL, past 30. It wouldn't be my first choice if I was the Pats, but
I'm surprised Houston is. I mean, they have a pretty decimated wide receiver room. Tank Dell is going to be out for quite a bit of time, so I'm surprised they're not just re-upping him on a really short, team-friendly deal. You have to think, to your point, Knack, it is scary in terms of how he has been a detriment to the locker room, especially we saw what we did with the Bills. Have to think if he comes in there, like right now,
he did the same with the Vikings. Sorry to stop you, but he did kind of the same with the Vikings too.
He did
right?
the same with the Vikings at the end. I feel like there was some stuff with him and Thielen, maybe like the jealous. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking.
Yes, there was the jealousy part.
But it seemed like he was a model citizen with the Texans. I kind of agree with Fab. I think it's a good move because they have nothing right now. They have like Tyquan Thornton and Javon Baker and Polk.
Yeah.
And that's where I don't know if Keenan Allen's the right move because they just have a lot of slot receivers. And, if we talk about a guy who will, like we talk about Kupp primarily in the slot, like Keenan Allen is like 100% in the slot. Could barely move right now with how many injuries and hamstrings he's had. So, I
base it more on like the leadership presence that he brings to a young team. I just don't think Stephon Diggs is the mentality guy or right fit for it. But to your point, if I'm Houston, why wouldn't I want to sign him to a 1-year deal? Maybe he's looking for more. Maybe he's looking for a 2 or 3 year deal to finish off his career, and they don't want to give it to him. And
maybe.
Look, coming off an injury, it's not easy to pay a guy, hard to pay a guy on a multi-year deal when you're coming off an ACL injury and you're past the age of 30.
All the same, I still think the Pats should not let him leave that facility without signing a contract, just because out of pure necessity. What about the former league winner in 2024, J.K. Dobbins? We got Nick Chubb, we got Gus Edwards, Gus the Bus, we got all these running backs that have yet to be signed. Do you guys see them falling anywhere? Any potential fits? I think Chubb should stick around with Cleveland. I hope he does. But Dobbins and Edwards are more wild cards to me. Mind you, you know what? As I'm thinking it right now, Dallas Cowboys should probably sign both of them and be done with it.
With the draft being so deep, I would not be shocked if these guys weren't signed until after the draft. They're going to be more than likely on 1-year deals, but it's going to go to a team that is looking to draft a running back that maybe didn't connect, and the draft didn't fall to them properly, and that's where these guys will come in and pick up the pieces. But if they haven't been signed yet, especially with how deep the draft is, I think they're going to be waiting for a little while.
I would watch. Sorry, Fab. I would watch out for J.K. Dobbins in Cleveland. He played at Ohio State. I think it could be an interesting homecoming. They will need a running back. I don't know if Jerome Ford is still on the roster as well.
I believe he is.
So if you have Ford, you bring back Chubb to also have Chubb and Dobbins, 2 injury-prone running backs. But I think it could be an interesting homecoming for Dobbins, who played at OSU.
I agree. But now on to Panda Watch. I mean, sorry, I got Anchorman in my head. Rodgers Watch 2025. We are on day 9. He's still mulling over his options. Probably the still the largest QB domino that has yet to fall, because depending on where Rodgers signs, you would assume that Russell Wilson and company will also sign in the opposite direction as well. So apparently he was waiting on the Vikings to give him I guess a response. I know there has been some rumors that the Vikings are not going to go forward with JJ McCarthy. Apparently that's not the case. I don't know what's going on. But all I know is that the Giants and the Steelers are still stuck twiddling their thumbs in waiting for what Aaron Rodgers does for 2025, because quite frankly, neither of those two teams have a quarterback. I know the QB visits that have taken place have included Jameson Winston, Joe Flacco, obviously Russell Wilson. I know the Steelers did sign Mason Rudolph, so at least they have some sort of a contingency plan, because Rudolph is obviously familiar with the coaching staff and the offense, former quarterback for the Steelers. Last year he played with the Minnesota, the Titans, not Minnesota, the Titans. Rodgers is making me
frustrated. Ski trip, eh?
A ski trip. A ski trip.
Must have hit his head hard.
Dude, it's day 9. I'm exhausted. Like, I guess we're like
Bumped his head. Yeah,
yeah,
just his
Guys,
only.
as they
which
say
head are
in
we talking about over
Quebec,
here?
attache ta tuque,
Attached
because
to it.
there's going to be no end in sight.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I still think that we are. It will go all the way into past the draft and until teams get on the field and see, primarily the Vikings, see what they have in JJ McCarthy, because they did say they want to move forward with him. I know they turned down some trade calls for him. People were calling him to trade, and yeah, I know the Giants are the team that is growing a little bit impatient, and they might make a move prior to waiting for Aaron. And I know news out of Steelers camp is they don't mind waiting, because if he does end up signing somewhere else, they're going to roll with Mason Rudolph and or who's in the draft. And honestly, I'm okay with sticking with Mason Rudolph. I know he had a good rapport with Pickens. He's 9-3-1. He's 9-3-1 as a starter with the Steelers.
Bro,
9-3.
stop.
Hey, nine
Stop.
three and one. 9-3-1 as a starter. You can't. The stats are stats. 64% completion
But
percentage.
how many
And
wins does he have when the defense scores more than 20 points? That's what I want to know.
honestly, and if it's the year to say, hey, put him in there, and if they tank, like this is
Okay,
the year,
fair,
this is the year
fair.
to do it. And
100%.
he has a winning record with the team. He's familiar with it. He's got to learn a new offense because Arthur Smith has since taken over, so he does not know that
Every
offense.
every quarterback has a winning record with the Steelers.
But that's why
Exactly. They're not gonna tank. They're not gonna tank. They're
they're not going
They're
to
gonna
yeah,
win
they're
in
not going to
games.
tank.
Knack,
They're going to be
I don't know
9 and
if
8
Kenny
again.
Pickett. I don't know if Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky have winning records with
Well,
the Steelers.
Kenny
Guys,
Pickett
That
has a
is true.
Super Bowl ring, so he doesn't care about a
guys,
winning
the
record.
Steelers and Giants right
Yeah.
now are pathetic. Like this is like a soap opera right now. This is like when there's two women in a soap opera and they're fighting for that. It's like Young and the Restless right now. This is like and I was listening to First Things First, like Nick Wright, or it was like Kevin Wiles. One of them, like you're the Steelers. Like
Yeah.
the Steelers, like these are and Giants. These are
Yeah,
like
but okay.
hold on,
So let me
wait,
ask
Knack.
you.
These are massive brands that are just twiddling their thumbs, waiting for Aaron Rodgers, like 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, to be the
Okay.
savior. Like
Now
this
I
is
understand
not
what people are saying that in their tweet, but okay. So if it's not Aaron Rodgers, who is it then? What's left out there?
well.
What do you do? What do you?
Well,
They went
it's
after
lack of a
Fields.
plan.
Fields.
This is a lack of a plan, Knack,
Well,
from both teams.
the plan was to go Fields, and apparently the offers were very similar, and he ended up choosing the Jets because obviously they benched him, and
Don't
he's
blame
like,
him at this point.
What's that?
I won't blame him at this point, bro.
No, I don't blame him either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, we're talking about waiting for a quarterback. Like, yeah, if you're waiting for a quarterback and you have no fall plan, like for sure, but who else is out there right now that you're waiting for, that you're saying like they can't wait for this guy because X, because
Yes.
like who's there?
So my slight rebuttal to that is like it also feels like is Aaron Rodgers kind of just doing this to like skip the OTAs and skip the mandatory mini camps? Because like to me, if you're coming into a new team, a new system, if there's new, especially the Steelers, like DK Metcalf is there, George Pickens is there. Those are two wide receivers that typically are not the type of wide receivers that Aaron Rodgers has success with. He has success with guys who run pristine routes. So if you're gonna sign there, to wait until April, May to get there is to me a big fu to like the continuity of the team. And it's the same thing with the Giants. Like to get a QB in there in April, May, when OTAs and mini camps are starting, you have to start building rapport with these players. And again, this what happened last year with the Jets, where Aaron Rodgers went to Egypt. Like, and I love Rodgers. I love Aaron Rodgers as a player. Like he was one of my like the connection with him and Devontae. Like I loved it so much. But like it's this is getting ridiculous. And I'm not even mad at him taking too much time. I think these teams are being ridiculous. 41-year-old Rodgers, like,
And
wild.
honestly, like I agree to some extent, and obviously as a fan of the Giants and the Steelers, you want this resolved because you just want to
Yeah.
move on, and you want to, you don't want the circus. But I think Jay Glazer said it perfectly.
Yes.
when you retire from every other sport, you retire from hockey, you could still go play old timer hockey. You could still get on skates and play with your friends. When you retire from baseball, you could still play catch. You could still do all that stuff. When you retire from football, that's it, right? Like it's done. Football is done. You're not playing football anymore. There's no what are you, a charity game where you're just throwing kind of the ball around.
Montreal's the best flag football league in the world.
Yeah, flag football. It's not the same. Like flag football. We're talking about flag. Like
That's
this
a
guy
reach.
has to pick. This guy has to pick his final team ever, and
I know
and I think all three of us can agree the Vikings is the best landing spot for him. Right?
1,000,000%.
Like,
Best O line, best offense.
the three out of the
Yes.
three, they're the best positioned to win now with an
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers coming in. Like
Yes.
there's no. So for him, like yeah, he's got to be there for. I think opening the first time people get in the building is sometime late April, right after the draft. When's the draft?
April 25th to 27th.
So it's right after. I think it's beginning of May.
Nah, he's not
Sometime.
going. He's not going. He's not
He's
going
not going to be there for that.
He's not going to be there. For whatever, if it's
He
what
wouldn't
it's
be-
OTAs,
But there's also reports saying that maybe he just waits and sees if there's an injury in camp and sees the situation that he goes to there. Like for him, honestly, I look at it on his side like, why does he have to rush into a decision and choose whatever? You're right. It's the teams that are waiting. But if the teams that are waiting don't have a fallout plan, that's on the team, not Rodgers. Like
agreed.
everyone's blaming Rodgers and making it about him. But it's like this is the first time also at 41 years old that he is a UFA. This is the first time he hits the market in his career. So it's like it's only been 9 days. Everyone makes it seem like it's been 3 months, you know? So I don't know.
It feels like an eternity. But
Again,
You learned from Brett Favre.
I'm not even going to make that parallel. Honestly, like I don't like that parallel. I really don't. And I haven't been exactly Aaron Rodgers' biggest fan, but I'm on the same page over here with Knack in the sense that like he can take as much time as he wants, and nobody's going to put a gun to his head, and he can make all this. He can take all the time in the world to make this decision because this is going to be most likely the last team he ever plays for, and he should take as much time as he needs. It is 1,000,000% on the two franchises to not have a contingency plan in place. At the very least, at least the Steelers went out and they signed Rudolph. Okay, cool. The Giants have done diddly squat and still have Tommy DeVito on their roster as if that's going to be their savior.
see, I find the Giants is a little bit worse in a sense, and I'm not trying to nitpick on the Giants fans, but it's like you only have
to try.
DeVito.
It happens.
Why wouldn't you have signed a Flacco or a Winston? Because even if Rodgers comes in, you need a backup. You can't roll with DeVito as your backup.
The only argument that I can have is that perhaps Winston and Flacco wanted to guarantee starting time, wanted to guarantee starts, and that's why they left the building. That's the only thing I can think of.
There's no other franchise right now that they have guaranteed starting time. Maybe going back to the Browns, Flacco or Winston could beat out Kenny Pickett. That's the only other scenario where I see they get starting time. And I know the Steelers also had interest in Flacco as a backup, which would be strange. I guess Flacco wants to hit every AFC North team before the end of his career. It is. Look, it's a whirlwind of a situation, and obviously the media takes it and spins, and then every morning everyone has their own spin on it. Everyone has their own thing. But I think on McAfee, Lombardi actually said he's like, whatever you hear on Aaron Rodgers is fake. He's like, there's maybe two people.
That.
There's maybe two people in the world,
That.
3 max, that know exactly what's going on, and that's his entourage, and it doesn't get out. Nothing gets leaked with Rodgers ever. Everything you hear. So honestly, everything you hear in the media is just everything is people just spinning it for a story because, hey, everyone needs to hate on someone, and it's got to be Aaron Rodgers. So the media will push that as much as they can, I feel.
So, ladies and gentlemen, check back with us again next week for Rodgers Watch 2025, day 16, where we're still going to be talking about the exact same thing as we spoke about for the last 10 minutes over here.
These are the days of our lives.
Seriously. It's just
Like
a bunch of reruns.
through the hourglass.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Wow.
I was more of a General Hospital fan. Yeah.
I was
Same.
more of a fan of having a life and watching regular TV. So NFL Draft Pro Days are upon us as of starting March 3rd, actually, and what I just realized going all the way up to April 4th. So we got some highly coveted potential NFL rookie prospects that are going to be running their own pro days at their own facilities. Most recently, we had Jalen Milroe, who today, the quarterback for Alabama, ran a 4.37 40, which is ridiculous for any player, even more so for a quarterback. I know he's being looked at more as a later round talent, but I think that's people are going to see that number. It's going to blow off the page, and it's going to help his draft stock. Also, we have Tetaroya McMillan, who ran a 4.4, wide receiver for Arizona.
Tetroya.
Tetroya McMillan. He's expected to go in the first round as probably the first wide receiver taken off the board. But notable players that will be working out later on in the year, we have obviously, in the month, excuse me, Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter coming out of Colorado State. We have
Colorado.
Do
Just
not
Colorado?
yeah, it's not Colorado.
No,
My
no,
bad.
no, 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 no,
No, that's
My bad,
a
Shadur.
bad one. We might have to edit that one out. Actually,
That's fine. So coming out of Colorado,
Fab will not be on the pod next week. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen.
Colorado State.
my mic hasn't been working anyways. April 4th is when their pro day is going to take place. And then Cam Ward, big quarterback out of Miami, their
Miami State.
pro day. I'm sorry?
Miami State.
It's not Miami State. It's the U.
So it's Florida State. It's Florida State.
That's what I meant.
No, it's Miami.
It's Miami.
No, it's Miami.
Miami. Guys, come on.
You got him good there.
I even know it's the U. I was like, I had to look at my notes. I was like, well, no, he's not a. Anyways, March 24th. Pay attention. Check the TV listings.
Just the Milroe one. It's I believe it's these are unofficial times. The pro day numbers. They're like it's stopwatch times. At first, it was like a range. I was watching on McAfee. They were saying it's in the 4.45 to 4.45 range.
That was Alabama. Alabama clocked him at that.
And then Alabama tweeted out like 4.37. It's like
yeah.
Okay.
It was 4. It was more 4.4. I think that he. It's still beast for a
it's still ridiculous.
Yeah, he's amazing.
It's still he's crazy.
It's crazy.
He's what 6'4", 216 or something like that.
I think he's 6'2", 6'2",
6'2". Okay.
Yeah, absolutely freak athlete. So we're gonna see where he winds up in the draft in a few weeks. So this part of the podcast, we have a little bit more time left over here. We're gonna go over who we think are the free agency winners and losers so far. Giants and Steelers cannot be included in either one of these categories for obvious reasons. But we're going to be talking about some of the other who we think, obviously had a very good free agency period so far. So, Roger, we're going to kick it off with you. Who's your free agency winner?
I put Matthew Stafford, quarterback from the Rams. Got a new center, Coleman Shelton, and they re-signed their right tackle, Alaric Jackson, and obviously getting Devontae Adams to me. We talked about it last week. I think that's a huge get. And I think both LA teams had really, really nice off seasons so far. And they're going to pick at the end of the draft, so they could either add maybe some more outside talent, maybe shore up the defense. I think for Matthew Stafford, he has all his guns back and then some with the addition of Adams.
Yep, I don't disagree with you at all. I really do love the moves that the Rams did in the offseason. And if I'm looking at Matthew Stafford right now on my draft board, he is firmly entrenched in QB1 standings. I think he's going to have an awesome year. I really do. I don't disagree with that. Knack, what about you?
I had two teams. I had the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders. So the Commanders really, really love what they did. They went out and traded for Deebo Samuel. I know that not the player he once was, but definitely going to add a new dynamic to that offense. Shored up Jaden Daniels' blind side by trading for Laramie Tunsil. Hopefully he keeps the penalties down, but did a great job there. Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle. Will Harris, sneaky pick for safety on the back end, shoring up the secondary, and they made a few other depth moves on the offensive line for backup roles, but like Nate Herbig and Foster Sorrell. So I really, really like what they're doing. They also re-signed Noah Brown, which was pretty cool. They kept another wide receiver on there, and then as far as the Bears, they just really shored up, as we mentioned, I think last week, the trenches on the offensive and defensive lines. They even brought in low key Devin Duvernay
Yeah,
as
that was
a
today. That was today that was signed, I think.
yeah, they signed him to a 2-year deal to return kicks, which I really like as well. So I
Yeah,
like what those teams have done, and I wouldn't be surprised if both made the playoffs this year.
yeah. Uh, Definitely will not disagree. We've been speaking about how good the Chicago Bears have been handling this offseason so far for the last little week. They just been killing it, and obviously the Redskins. I mean, Commanders, whatever. Washington have are like it just goes to show you that really when you have a fantastic quarterback on a rookie contract, it allows you to make those big swings because they gave up a lot for Laremy Tunsil. But you know what? Protecting your most important investment, I think, is not a bad way to start. And he's a fantastic left tackle, and it's only going to help their offense going forward. I think so.
Well,
Uh,
their win now, even
they
with a
are,
rookie quarterback. Like, do it now
yeah,
with a rookie deal quarterback.
yeah,
Now you know you could do
100%.
it. He made it to the championship. Like,
Yep.
put the chips in. Like, this is the time to do it. I love what they're doing in Washington. Ever since Snyder's gone,
Hmm.
Josh Harris.
that franchise has took such a turn.
Yeah,
Yeah,
resigned Zach Ertz too, which was a very nice move too. The fact
Yep.
that they brought him back, I love that. He was
Yep.
really
yeah, I love that too. So I have Las Vegas Raiders actually.
yeah.
Just from the beginning of the offseason, adding Pete Carroll, adding Chip Kelly, and now obviously the trade for Geno Smith, re-signing Max Crosby. I think for the first time in a while, if you're a Las Vegas Raiders fan, like you can actually be a little bit hopeful, to be honest with you, that your team is seriously competitive. They still need to add a receiver, which I think they might be doing that in the draft. They're picking right now
Sixth.
8 or 6.
six. They're picking six. So I guess the book is out. That's going to be Ashton Genty, but still, that they should be still targeting a wide receiver. I think maybe either a free agency or otherwise. But apart from that, um, you know, the sun is shining. There's light in the tunnel for Las Vegas Raiders right now. Like everything that they've done so far, I think has been really good. And you can get a starting quarterback for a third round pick and Geno Smith reunited with Pete Carroll. It makes sense. Makes so much sense.
I know he had a bad finish to the season with the Bills, but I would love if they brought back Amari Cooper. That'd be a really nice reunion
I
there
would like that.
on the cheap. And they need a bona fide outside X receiver. Let's see if he can maybe rekindle what he did with the Raiders and the Cowboys. But I would love for that to happen.
Yeah,
That's an interesting one.
I like that. I've always been an Amari Cooper fan. I've always felt like he hasn't been given the respect he deserves.
100%.
But yeah, him finishing off this season, little swan song with Las Vegas. I can see it. I can see it. I also had the Denver Broncos too. Um, what they've done on defense, what they've done on offense, re-signing a lot of their key offensive players as well, just from an offensive line perspective. And I know a lot of their key additions do have a lot of injury asterisks associated to them, just like Lucas's name on our trophy. But I had to give him a
Wow,
shot.
low blow.
Wow,
That's so
Lucas, I hope you're
random.
listening. He's got
Like,
so many call outs this episode. Good luck on your job
We're
interview.
gonna get angry
Um,
Lucas tomorrow morning.
yeah, good. Yes, mention his job interview.
Good luck on your job
Good
interview.
idea.
Job interviews.
We have to cut that out.
Uh,
Might have to
I
clip
like
that.
what the Denver Broncos did. I really did. Like, I forget his head coach. Sean Payton finally got his joker in Evan Ingram. He was looking for that type of player. So I can see them definitely making or continue to progress next year. I do want to talk about some of the free agency losers. Roger, I want to get your take. We're going to start off with you. Who do you think got poo-pooed on in the free agency season so far?
I have three that I want to mention. I know it's a lot, but I think we all agree CJ Stroud is going to be a loser this year. Or at least he's perceived to be a loser so far with
Mm-hmm.
the loss of Laramie Tunsil. I
I
know they
have,
got
I have
Cam.
a.
Sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was going to say I have a rebuttal on that, but
Well,
go
I know
ahead.
they
Finish
got
your
Cam
point.
Robinson, but he allowed in 2024 Cam Robinson allowed 38 the most hurries with 38 and had the most penalties of 13 in his career. And Tunsil was significantly better from a pass blocking perspective, while still having some struggles last year from a like penalties and holding perspective. So, and obviously we mentioned no Stephon Diggs as of now. Maybe he could return. No immediate replacement for Tank Dell. I've seen mocks where they're mocked for Matthew Golden at 25, but as mentioned before, his stock is rising more, and some people have him above Tedora McMillan in the draft. So
Tetroya.
Tetaroya. So
Tete Troya.
I am a bit weary on your boy CJ Stroud, Fab,
Why is he my boy?
by proxy of Nico Collins being your boy.
Yes. Just to touch on something that Knack said earlier on the podcast, when you signed your big guns early, you get them on the cheap. Nico Collins is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, making about $24 million a year, which is peanuts compared to everything else. But that's another conversation. It's probably the only smart thing they've done. I had the Texans as a loser too, actually. But then following some of the moves they did today, I was like, okay, it's a little bit more palatable. I still don't think they won the offseason, that's for sure. But they did at least plug some of the holes they might have created themselves. And the only reason why I say that is because Laramie Tunsil got them a lot of assets, a lot of draft capital for the next few
Yeah.
years, which they're going to need because they need to revamp the entirety of the offensive line, not just one specific position. So that's the only caveat that I can say. I mean, their secondary is very good. They traded for Gardner Johnson. So, okay, fine. Maybe you're going to have some trouble throwing on them, but then again, CJ Stroud's going to have trouble throwing, period. So it's not going to be, I'm not going to have a lot of exciting games to watch for the Texans, I think so.
Yeah, he's pressured 27% pressure rate last year. It was the most in the league. So quickly, the last two I had, just the Saints. Just felt it was a very pedestrian offseason. The worst pass blocking grade according to PFF last year. They did not upgrade their O-line at all. They have the 10th pick in a weak O-line draft, which they're likely going to be forced to draft for need because of that. So I'm surprised that there was quite a decent amount of offensive line talent in this free agency period, and they didn't really go for anything. So
if I can piggyback on that, I had the Saints as well, and 3 signings they made that a lot of people thought they should have been a little bit of a rebuild year for them, and they just signed people to massive contracts where they went, Chase Young, that 3 years, $51 million, that was kind of a head scratcher.
yes,
Juwan Johnson, 3 years, almost $31 million. Justin Reed, 3 years, $32 million. And then they're obviously now cap strapped for 2026. They have the lowest cap availability in 2026 at the moment, where it's like, wait a second, aren't you supposed to, you don't even have a team, and now you're cap strapped.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite of what the Patriots kind of had going on. So yeah, I agree with you, Raj. That was my main loser of the offseason.
And
as
to
well.
that point, Knack, what the hell is happening with Derek Carr, man?
Yeah, but that's the other thing. You don't even know what's going on with him.
Is he the starting quarterback next year,
Yes.
or is he
He has
not?
no choice. He has no choice.
Yes.
His dead cap is $60 million in 2026, man. This is one of the worst contracts in the league.
That's a bad contract.
Huh?
That's a horrible contract.
It's awful. It's awful, and he's just been a diminished player since he was he was benched by the Raiders, man. He got Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
He was Daniel Jones before Daniel Jones.
Wow,
Yes.
good call. Wow, good call.
And then just the last one I had is kind of in the same vein as the Saints, but Jordan Love and the Packers. Second worst drop rate, 7% last year among their wide receivers. No top wide receiver additions yet. The Packers don't draft wide receivers high. They just don't. So what are they going to do? They're going to bring in another rookie, and that wide receiver core is, the average age is already 24 years old, right? So I think they missed out. Let's see what they do. Maybe they do bring in one of those veteran wide receivers, but man, you create a glut in that position where you already have a lot of the same types of players.
How funny is it how things can change in a short amount of time? Because around this time last year, when we first started our podcast, we were talking about how if you're a Green Bay Packers fan right now, things are looking up for you. You can be excited. You have a great quarterback, you have a young wide receiver core. You could be super, super excited. They had just knocked off the Cowboys in the playoffs. They just completely smashed them. And now we look at it and we're like, wait a minute. You guys are missing offensive weapons. You guys are missing a number 1 wide receiver. You don't have that, and now it's you're not doing anything in the free agency either. So you're in a little bit of a limbo area. Probably not. Maybe we're over exaggerating a little bit, but it's just opinions change very, very, very quickly. Very quickly.
Yeah, and that offense was stagnant at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. It was. You look at Dontavian Wicks. The guy has great separation, a fantastic route runner, cannot catch a cold. in Wuhan, China.
Oh my god!
You're unhinged, man. What the hell? Jesus.
It's 9:30. I haven't had supper yet.
Get some sleep, man. Get some sleep.
That's another thing too. I'm running on fumes, man. It's been a rough few days.
I think I think you could put the. I had obviously the. I think everyone could have had this one, but we've spoken enough about it, so I don't want to talk more. But the Dallas Cowboys, obviously, that's like
Yeah.
the major.
Mhm.
They made the cap space by restructuring Dak's contract. Currently have $50 million in cap, and they're I don't know, not spending it on anyone.
Nuts.
But another one is the San Francisco 49ers. I
Mhm.
have to say they lost. They were pillaged in a lot of areas, key players, key positions. So a lot of question marks about their to maintain their performance levels. I know last year was a tough year where they were still in that Super Bowl contender talk, but even with Brock Purdy, who knows? Is it going to be a hold in at camp? Like there's going to be another offseason story with them surrounding them. Plus the Ayuk, they're trying to trade him. So feels like that dark cloud didn't go away from some San Francisco, and it's feels like one of those. When it rains, it pours, and I think that's going to continue in 2025. I don't see them sniffing up anywhere near close to division and or fighting for a wild card spot.
Yeah, you guys hit every single nail on the head because those are my three teams that I had lined up to talk about. So I'm going to go a little bit off script right now. So yeah, obviously the Niners are it's a bit of a hanging fruit, low hanging fruit there. I mean, they were just bloodletting the entire offseason and they kind of had no choice. So you're going to see it's going to be interesting to see what does happen with Brock Purdy. And Cowboys are just going to Cowboys. So yeah, it's tough to be in Texas right now, I suppose. This is going to be a very spicy hot take, but I haven't had one in a while. The Eagles, I wouldn't say they lost the free agency, but losing, and this is, I suppose, comes from winning a Super Bowl and comes from having players that were going on expiring contracts during your Super Bowl run, winning the Super Bowl, and now all of us, and they were key contributors to the team, obviously, and key contributors to the fact that they did win the Super Bowl. I'm talking about, Milton Williams and Josh Sweat. Also trading away C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They did re-sign Zach Bond, excuse me. Obviously re-signed Saquon Barkley. So the majority of that team is still sticking around. It's just that I feel like from a defensive perspective, they lost a bit, and their defense was obviously very good. And then, like, what happens if the NFL upholds the suggestive rule change that put forth by the Green Bay Packers, and all of a sudden
They won't.
the bro push or the tush push or the brotherly shove is going to be outlawed?
Bro push. I've never heard anyone call it.
Just made it up on the fly.
That's the first one the first time I've heard that too.
So yeah, they, apart from signing the trade with the Browns,
Push.
Bro pushing.
Yeah.
AJ Dillon. Let's keep it on topic, guys. Come on, pay attention.
If the Niners were to do the tush push, it'd be the bro push.
Wow. Say that louder, Roger. I don't think everyone heard you. Come on. Speak into the mic.
It's an hour into it's it's an hour. The retention the retention drops after
the retention. So yeah, the Eagles were my pseudo quote unquote fantasy loser, free agent loser, excuse me. They lost a lot of pieces. They're still a fantastic team. I'm not going to deny that, but I think it's going to be harder for them to rebound after losing those big defensive players that they lost. And I guess that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, as usual, for sticking around. Thank you for listening to us for the last hour and about 4 minutes. It's been a hell of a ride, let me tell you. It's going to continue. Y'all could have been everywhere in the world. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us.
To a Southern guy all of a sudden.
We appreciate that. Please follow us on all social medias, on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. Please listen to the podcast anywhere you download, but in particular, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Watch out for new episodes every week, shorts every single day. I'm Fab. He's Roger. That's Knack. Bush League Huddle Podcast. Thank you for sticking around. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Well, Fab's wires were crossed this episode. It was something.
It was rough.
No, you were just your wires were just crossed. You went off the handle. You were.
Everyone at work told me today. We're like, dude, you look tired. I'm like, I am. I had like a very busy last few days at work.
Unhinged. I think Rod said it right.
Yeah, big time, man.
Very unhinged.
100%. I can't wait to listen to my intro. My God, I blacked out. I blacked out.
You literally just said the intro twice. It was great, but you did it twice.
Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah. It was fast forward.
It's like old school. Blacked out.
Happy March Madness.
Peace out, everyone. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Enjoy the slopes.